Before we get into walls, roofs, or hearths, there is something essential to understand. The Vikings did not believe warmth came from fire. Fire was expensive, slow to replace, and dangerous inside enclosed structures. What the Vikings believed, and what archaeology has repeatedly confirmed, is that warmth comes from containment. If you can prevent heat from escaping, you barely need to create it at all. That idea is so counter to modern thinking that many people miss it entirely. Yet this single principle explains how Norse families survived winters that routinely dropped below freezing for months on end. If you are expecting a clever trick or hidden device, stay with me. What follows is something more powerful, a complete system of passive heating built into the Viking way of life. Viking homes were engineered to stop heat loss before warmth was even created. The Viking longhouse was not designed to be impressive. It was designed to endure. Walls were thick, heavy, and built from turf stacked over stone or timber frames. Turf is not decorative soil. It is compressed earth filled with roots and moisture, which freezes solid in winter and becomes a natural insulating barrier. Once frozen, it slows heat loss better than many modern materials. The roof followed the same logic. Sod roofs pressed downward, sealing gaps and eliminating airflow. Heat does not disappear instantly. It escapes through movement of air. Viking homes stopped air movement almost entirely. If you want to apply this today, the lesson is simple. Add mass. Thick walls, earth berms, clay plasters, or even stacked firewood walls around exterior structures dramatically reduce heat loss. The Vikings would never rely on thin barriers to hold back winter. The ground itself was used as a stable source of warmth. Viking homes were rarely built fully above ground. Many were partially sunken or banked with earth along the sides. This was not accidental. Below the frost line, ground temperature remains relatively stable year-round. By anchoring homes into the earth, Vikings shielded living spaces from wind while borrowing warmth stored in the soil. This is why entrances were low and narrow, forcing cold air to slow before entering. Some longhouses even used angled entryways that trapped cold air away from the main living space. You can still use this approach today. Even banking soil against one exterior wall, particularly on the wind-facing side, can noticeably improve heat retention. Survival shelters and off-grid homes that use earth contact are repeating Viking logic without realizing it. The hearth was a heat charger, not a continuous fire source. Popular images show Viking hearths roaring day and night. Archaeological evidence suggests otherwise. Fires were used deliberately and briefly. Stone-lined hearths and packed earth floors absorbed heat during short burns and released it slowly for hours afterward. Benches, walls, and sleeping platforms were placed where this stored warmth lingered longest. The goal was not constant flame. The goal was stored heat. A modern parallel would be a masonry stove, or, a thick tile floor warmed once and allowed to radiate heat overnight. Even placing stones near a heat source and moving them closer to sleeping areas later, well, that really mirrors this ancient practice. This is the part most modern audiences overlook. Viking homes were communal for thermal reasons. Body heat really mattered. People slept close together, not for comfort, but, honestly, for efficiency. Wool clothing, layered bedding, and animal hides trapped shared warmth and prevented it from escaping. Livestock were often housed in attached sections of the longhouse during winter. Their constant body heat, rose into living spaces, providing steady background warmth without consuming fuel. In modern survival situations, this translates to shared sleeping spaces, insulated animal shelters attached to dwellings and zoning interior areas, so heat is not wasted where it is not needed. Viking homes were smoky, but not uncontrolled. Smoke filled the upper space beneath the roof, creating an insulating layer that slowed heat loss. At the same time, smoke dried timbers and prevented rot in damp climates. Smoke holes were small and adjustable, allowing just enough ventilation to remove moisture without stripping warmth. This balance kept interiors warmer and buildings intact for decades. Today, airtight construction paired with controlled ventilation achieves the same effect without smoke. The principle remains identical. Everything in a Viking home served more than one purpose. Nothing was wasted. Walls insulated and supported. Roofs, they were sealed and weighted. Animals warmed and provided food. Smoke preserved and insulated. Clothing functioned as bedding. Architecture was not separated from survival, it was survival. This is why Viking heating methods still appear in modern passive house design, experimental archaeology, and cold climate survival shelters. They work because they obey physics rather than fight it. Why this knowledge still matters now. Cold kills more people globally than heat. Fuel prices rise. Power systems fail. The Viking approach offers resilience without dependency. It does not rely on constant input. It relies on understanding how heat behaves and refusing to let it escape. This knowledge survived centuries of harsh winters, limited resources, and isolation. It deserves serious attention today. If you value deep practical history that connects ancient knowledge to real-world survival, subscribe to Ancient Know-How. Share this with fellow history enthusiasts and builders who want solutions proven by time, not trends. These methods kept people alive for generations. They still can.